Hi guys, it's Janet with Living Room Talks. I have a very special guest with me today. Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name is Kelly Ellis. I'm an athletic trainer and physical therapist assistant, and I currently work with the Hawks organization in the NBA, working with the NBA officials.
So, quick question. How did you decide that athletic training was going to be your profession/career?
I actually knew in high school. I don't want to date myself, but I am older, so I'll be 37 next month. But in high school, sports medicine had just started coming around, and I was, of course, into sports. I played basketball, volleyball, and I got injured. And we had an athletic trainer there, but I was like, I want to get to know this profession a little bit more. So by sophomore year, I was taking sports medicine classes and already knew that this is something that I wanted to do. But however, I ended up going to school and got my bachelor's in exercise and health science. And my advisor there was like, hey, maybe you should try physical therapy. You might make more money, and, gave me the whole spiel on that. But I ended up going to PTA school, graduated in 2011, and I still kept coming back to athletic training. It was just something that I should have stuck with. I should have just stayed with what I knew I wanted to do. So by 2013, I was already back in school. And I graduated in 2015 with my master's. So I kind of veered off my plan, but then I came back. So now I'm back here.
So in your current setting with the NBA, was it a goal or dream of yours, or is just how your career led you there?
No, it's absolutely. So this has always been a dream of mine to be in the NBA. And I'm going to say sorry ahead of time to the Hawks, but my favorite team is the Miami Heat. That's actually one of the reasons I did end up going to Florida International University. I wanted to try and at least get an internship there or try to network with them. It didn't work out for me, but I still graduated from FIU, had plenty of opportunities. And once I graduated, I did get an internship with the Atlanta Dream. So I started right off the bat in professional sports. And so since 2015, most of my career has been in professional sports. So I'm pretty content with what I've done so far, but it's definitely a dream to be in the NBA. One of the bigger things and bigger goals that I have is the fact that there's not a lot of females in the NBA. So when I went to athletic training school, that was another goal of mine, is to make sure that I was one of the females that broke that barrier. So I'm getting there, but I like the fact that we have female athletic trainers in the league now, but we need more. I like that the NFL is starting to come around and accept the idea of having more athletic trainers. I have a few classmates who are Black females who are in the league, in the NFL now, as athletic trainers, but I want to see it more in the NBA.
So I'm getting the sense that you are an NBA fan. You love basketball. Yes. How do you separate the fan in you and the professional in you?
It's so hard, let me tell you. So I am a huge LeBron James fan. Like, my friends, my family hate the fact that I'm always going to bat for him on social media. I'm always just so excited, and it's been like so many years in the making, and the fact that February 1st I finally got to be in arm's length and reach of him. So I still had to say, okay, no, you're not in the stands just watching the game. You're an athletic trainer, you have to be professional. So I come close, but I do make sure to maintain my professionalism, but it's very hard. And it's so cool to see, all these famous NBA players, but even the guys on the Atlanta Hawks, they walk down the hallway and you get to know them, you get to know their personalities, and it reminds you that they're just like us. So sometimes I do have my days where I forget, but most of the time I'm good, and just remember that they're like us.
Is there anything that surprised you about working with the NBA team?
No, just because by the time I got to the NBA, I've already worked in a lot of professional sports. I was overseas working with an Olympic team there, and then I worked with the Harlem Globetrotters. So I've had an array of experience. So nothing's really a surprise anymore to me.
How important has it been for your career to go outside of your comfort zone?
That's the only way I made this career. That's absolutely the only way. And when I have students, that's one of the things that I tell them is you can't limit yourself. You have to be able to say, let's try it. Let's make myself as marketable as I can, but also get that experience and enjoy that experience. So, if you talked to me years ago, I'd be like, I never want to go overseas. I never want to do this. I ended up living in China and Canada for a year, just because I said, let's do it. Let's see what happens. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So you can't say no. You can't restrict yourself.
So when it comes to students or interns that you come across, what attributes or characteristics do you look for?
The main one is just the ambition, the drive. You have to want it. I can't stress it enough, because that's the thing that's going to get you through the door. Especially with me, it's like I have to see that you really want it, not just to say, oh yeah, I work with NBA or I work with the Globetrotters. You have to have that passion for it. And when you show me that you're compassionate about your profession as an athletic trainer, that feeds off into me and makes me want to help you even more and wants to give back even more, which is why I take students. I see how hard it is and how difficult it is to get into certain avenues, and I try to make sure to be a person who can open a door for them.
Is there ever a apprehension or kind of like a voice in the back of your head? You're putting yourself out there for your students. Are you ever afraid of them not putting a good effort forward on behalf of your name and your reputation?
Absolutely. I just had this conversation with my family, actually, and my parents. And that's one of the things that I do worry about is, so far, everything's been good. I've had good feedback, but, you still have to stay humble and stay grounded and remember that, your name is attached. You're planting that seed, and you want to make sure that seed is actually going to grow into something beautiful and not a negative experience for them. So I'm always making sure, like, okay, dial it back a little bit, don't go too hard. I expect certain things, but not everybody has that same mentality like me, or the level of drive like me. So I have to be careful.
What mistakes have you seen students or young professionals make trying to break into professional sports?
Just not having structure. That's one of my biggest things is, I hate to sound old, but it's like these kids these days, they just don't have the same type of level of structure that I was brought up on. Some things that I don't like to see is, showing up right on time, or, a few minutes late, or trying to figure out, what's my schedule? When do I leave? And I'm like, I never thought to ask this in my rotations, never thought to ask this in any of my jobs. It's like, I want to be here. I don't care when I leave, I'm here, So my biggest thing is the structure, or the lack of structure, that a lot of people have these days. And that's where I feel like that's the mistake that they come across, because essentially that's going to translate into their jobs, and you don't want them to go down that path.
Speaking of structure, how do you balance your work and your personal life? Obviously, you don't want to be 1 foot out the door or 1 foot in the door at all times. How do you kind of give yourself some grace and give yourself your own time?
I don't. No, I'm just kidding. If you ask my friends, it depends on the week. They're like, are you working today? I try to give myself at least one day a week where I kind of like just regroup myself. But then there's some days or some weeks where I'm in overdrive because I'm just like, one, I'm just so excited, but two, I understand what the end goal is. So even though I'm tired right now, I know that the Hawks are getting ready to go into the playoffs. So it's like, okay, we still have a few more weeks to go of the season. It's like, I can't stop now. So I try to give myself, like I say, just at least a day out the week to kind of regroup and refocus for myself. But you know, I'm trying to think, what's the saying? So sleep when you're dead, basically. It's just like, you know, if this is what you want, you got to work for it. So I want to make sure that the organization sees that, you know, I might be the first one there, the last one to leave. I try to leave that good impression, whether it's, you know, on the head athletic trainer or the general manager or security, even in the building. I want them to have that good impression of me so that when news travels or, you know, people hear through the grapevine, they know about my reputation and my rapport.
So switching gears a little bit, because I'm curious, what did you do during quarantine? What did you do during, if you were furloughed or during the pandemic?
Oh my gosh, I was losing my mind. So
yeah.
At the start of the pandemic, I was actually on tour with the Harlem Globetrotters. So last year. So I only got a month of time with them before they had to suspend tour. And so when I'm not like working athletic training, I tend to do physical therapy in a clinic. Just, you know, of course, to keep up licensure and keep up my skills. So for 2 months after tour, I'm sitting here like going crazy and texting my boss, like, when can I come back to work? Like I can't sit here. I'm not used to sitting at the house. So that's one of the things where I really had to take a step back, and I really appreciated being able to have a job and go to work. But on the flip side of that, it made me realize that, excuse me, even though we're healthcare professionals, how essential are we? And that told me that people still need to advocate, and we still need to promote athletic training to make people aware just how essential our jobs are. And they could utilize us in so many different avenues, even if, you know, tour is suspended. So in the first 2 months where I was just sitting at the house, like I said, I was going crazy. And then finally my boss was able to get me to work in the clinic. So I was working in the clinic for a little bit, and then the Hawk season started up. So I'm back.
So tell me about your first NATA convention. What were your impressions and what did you learn at that first convention you went to?
I have to think back. I believe my first NATA convention had to have been 2012. We were in Indiana.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I was still a student, but we were getting ready to graduate. And me being a student and not having that paycheck, I was in awe of all the free stuff we were getting. First off, I was like, oh, let me just put this in my bag. I had to figure out how to get all that stuff home because I was going overboard. People just throwing you tape and here, try this, and I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. But they also had the cadaver lab there, so I really enjoyed that. And then I didn't realize at that time how beneficial NATA was to network. So me, I'm just going around picking up free stuff instead of actually getting to know people and being able to network and utilize them and say, okay, now I have this vendor with, say, Mueller. I can talk to him, get his recommendations, and that helps you in the long run. So by the time, I think it was Houston was next. Was it Houston?
2013
Dallas?
would have been Vegas, I think
Vegas. So when I was in Vegas, that's when I really started networking and getting to know people. because by the time I got to a collegiate setting, I worked at Ellis-Atlanta University, I was in charge of a lot of that stuff as far as like the ordering and the inventory. And had I not known like, hey, this is Brett at Mueller, let me talk to him, I would have been lost. So I as the years go by, I continue to appreciate more and more. You know, obviously it's not just about getting your CEUs there at NATA, but just being able to network and finding different niches that will help you in the long run. And to this day, like, and I use Mueller as an example because even overseas, they send people out overseas and had in-services with us. So that kind of sticks in my head, like, if they're willing to come to China, they're willing to do what they can for their clients. So of course that puts in the back of my head, like, let me keep them use their business. So with NATA, like I said, as time progresses, I've learned how to utilize my time there even more. And also just being able to sit down and talk to professional sports, athletic trainers, just because, you know, I don't want to stop being in pro sports. I enjoy it. So, you know, you just never know what door is going to open.
So when you go to a conference nowadays, do you go in with an agenda? Are there any can't miss events that you try and make, or do you look at speakers and programming?
Typically I look at the agenda and try to see what classes, of course, are going to help advance me. And my biggest thing as far as my career is what's going to make me most marketable for the next job, because I'm always having to compete with other people, whether it's, you know, the new graduates or people who have had the career changes. So I always glance at the agenda to see what courses are going to help advance my skills and make me better. Which is how I ended up, you know, getting certifications. Like I'm certified in kinesiotape, certified in impact train as an athletic trainer, you know, impact testing. And then I have the corrective exercise specialist certification. So I always try to make sure that I'm aligned with those classes, just to make sure that I'm still up to date on the newest research, because stuff is always changing and it's hard to keep up. But just like I say, making sure that I'm as valuable as possible as a person.
So looking at the profession of athletic training, do you see any issues that are upcoming, and what do you think we can do about it?
Any issues in athletic training? I think we're on the right path, opening doors for the athletic trainers with the more ethnic diverse backgrounds. We're getting there, but we're not there. I want to be able to see more opportunities being created for us, and more programs that help assist us. You know, we didn't always have EDACT. So, and it's been great that we have this committee that is starting to come around and be more notable and help us grow. And I want everybody to be able to provide some type of opportunity or be in a position that can help the next person along.
So my last question to you, and it's always my favorite question, tell me about an embarrassing moment that you've had as related to athletic training, and what did you learn from it?
An embarrassing moment. Typically it's one of those, like, I'll run out on, like, okay, obviously basketball, I ran out on the field or on the court, and I'm thinking it's one body part and it's not. And I'm like, oh, so let's do a concussion, let's do this, let's do that. And it was completely off. And I was like, well, where does it hurt? And I'm spending time on the court trying to figure out what's wrong with this athlete. And literally, like, the ref is looking at me like, do you not know what you're doing? And I'm like, okay, let's just get you up and try to get you off to the side. sometimes, you know, especially in college, they like to throw you for a loop. So that was one of those days where it was like, okay, you know, you have your laundry list of what you think it could possibly be, and it was nowhere near that the injury was nowhere near that. So I was just like, great, appreciate it. And it just so happened it was during like one of their biggest rival games. So as I said, I work with Clark-Atlanta University. Their rival, of course, big show is Morehouse College. So it was in front of like thousands of people, and I'm just like, and you got the kids standing around you, you have the refs standing around you, the coaches standing around you, and I'm just like, let me just go.
It's like that meme of Homer Simpson going inside the bush.
Right, like I just backed up into the bushes. I was like, let's see what we can do. So yeah, that's, you know, that tends to happen, but you know, what can you do?
Exactly.
You know,
move on. It was meant to be.
Right.
All right, last couple of minutes for you, your closing statement.
A closing statement, just that I appreciate this opportunity. Hopefully, you know, people that watch this can learn something from it or be motivated from it. And, you know, if you hear my story and just understand that things are possible, don't let people tell you no. I had plenty of people that tell me that I was never going to make it into the NBA, plenty of people that told me I would never get into pro sports. And all I have to say is look at me now. So
like a ha, I told you so.
Yep, I'm one of those. I'm a Gemini. You can't tell me no. I'm gonna make sure it gets done one way or another. So
all right, Kelly, thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.
all right, thank you.